Okay.
All right.
Ta-da.
So I've got 5:07. I'd like to call this meeting of the March 21st Library Board to order. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Barb is not just coming in now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be so kind, Brittany, Nicole, roll.
All right. Hi, Barb.
What am I waving for?
She's saying something.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. Barb, I couldn't hear you. You were muted.
I am so sorry, but for some reason your email disappeared.
Oh.
And I had to go fishing for an old one to find the hook up for today.
Well,
I'm here.
I am thrilled to see you, and, wherever my emails go, that's also where matching socks go, right?
That's right.
No, I see it every day. Then when they go to pull it up, it disappears.
Oh.
It's bizarre. Yeah, I did get it, but don't worry about that. It's just I have terrible hotmail for internet, something that interferes, so.
Sure.
Go for the meeting. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hello. All right. So, roll call. Gail.
I'm here.
Carrie. Here. Nancy. Here. Michelle. Here. Tony. Here. Alderperson Schrader. Here. Phyllis. Here. Barb.
Here.
And Tracy is excused. We have a quorum.
Okay. You would let the board know about the statement of public notice, please.
This meeting was noticed in accordance with the open meeting law.
Okay, thank you. I see no one here for public comment, so it looks like we can move to the next item on the agenda. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of January 17th as well as the January 2023 financials. Sorry, I'm on the wrong line. March 2020, I'm reading the notes. March 2023 financials. Oh, and excuse me, we have to do February too.
So it's March, so we're supposed to approve the February minutes and financials.
Okay, I apologize. I'm looking too far ahead. I'm looking for a motion to approve the February 21st library board meetings as well as the February 2023 financials.
Motion to approve the minutes for February and the financials for February 2023.
Okay, looking for a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any comments? I only had kind of one. I was looking just at impact acquisitions for an example, and
What packet page is that?
I'm sorry.
And the numbers
6.
are back.
I saw
that. On page 6, and I only picked them out. I don't have an issue with it. But it says annual renewal for paper, and I was curious, do we ever, with our vendors that we could do this for, do we ever, like, every year or 2 or 3 send them out for bid again to see, or do we always renew the same vendors every year?
They go up for bid in a certain period of time, just to make sure they're the best option.
Okay, so we do that as a matter of course.
Yeah,
I just didn't know for sure.
And we're part of the cities, so we get, a better
Sure.
deal by cooperatively going in with that. So.
And then on the wills item on page 7, which is the last one, there's an acronym there. It's simply also because it's wills, WPLC buying pool. I don't know what WPLC is.
Yeah, so WPLC is the Wisconsin Public Library Consortium buying pool, and that is our portion of the Wisconsin Digital Library Collection. So Libby or Overdrive, if you use any of those ebooks or e-audiobooks, that's our portion into that state collection. And, of course, if you look at our monthly numbers, you'll see how fond our patrons are of that.
Yeah.
And how much audiobooks have really bloomed. It's fascinating to me how much audiobooks have taken off. So.
Nothing else, just those were curiosity.
Yeah, good questions.
Anyone? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, and an abstention for me on the minutes. Okay, now, President's report, I do not have one, but now we're into March 2023 for the Director's report.
We have our Gaelic Harper coming on March 29th. That is always a really popular program, so we're excited to have Jeff come back. He's going to play music.
Does he play in the library proper?
No, in meeting room 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, good question. We try to keep things out of the library proper unless it's for major children's programs in the summer. And then I've been trying to put warning signs around the computers on those days because it gets very noisy and people who come in with the assumption of quiet will not find solitude for that hour. But they will hear joyful children, which is its own reward. We have our annual Shred Day coming up. And that's May 13th. We are going to run it like we did last year. And the good news for that is that last year we did not have any traffic problems. So we'll keep doing that. And, I think we usually help around 150 community members with that shredding in that hour and a half or that 2-hour time period. So the Friends of the Library are again sponsoring that. And, yeah, we're excited about that. So. As you recall, Abby accepted a wonderful opportunity at the Waukesha Public Library, so this report that you see this month is submitted by Courtney and Heather, our children's assistants. They have always been part of the programming at the children's department just because we do so much programming that Abby would have never been able to do all that programming. So the good news is that while Courtney and Heather are taking on, all of those duties at the moment, they are familiar with all those programs, the kids are familiar with them, so those relationships continue to be positive, and we are looking at applications right now, so that process has begun. And one of the new things that I'm going to call out that the Children's Department is doing is something in April called the Petite Prom. So they're doing a prom formal for kids 10 and under. It's going to feel like a prom, but
Cute.
For that age group. So I think that'll be adorable. And let's see. The teen librarian, she's working on a lot of marketing for the summer reading program and for a lot of our summer things going on, like the Garden Walk, which is our major Friends fundraiser. We're doing some Culver's nights, and we're still working on that communication and marketing plan. The 9-month, work group across the system. There were lots of different libraries working on marketing plans, so we were sharing ideas and presenting what we've been working on. That ended last month. So we have a draft of it, so now Amanda and I are just going to touch base again and make sure that it's the best version of itself, and then you guys will take a look at it and share your opinions. We have a new library aide, Lauren. She has joined our team after a retirement, so we're excited to have her. She already fixed a computer issue we were having all on her own on day 2, so good for her. The new desk has been really nice. We've been very grateful to have it. It's already improved a lot of different things. Just the space is just not as congested. I don't have to turn sideways anymore when I enter into that space, which is always positive. We're not tripping over each other. Even such small things like the surface of the desk, because it was built and pushed forward, now it's underneath the lights more, so that it's just brighter on the desktop surface, which is nice. Our processing stations, we used to be facing sideways, so if a patron was coming from this way, we wouldn't see them. Now we were able to reorient the processing tables so we're facing, so we can see left, right, straight ahead. So from a service angle, that has been positive as well. So lots of really good things that have come out of it. And there's just a few punch list items that we have to finish, but it's been exciting to see that project end because it was hard.
And where are the tulips from?
Jane brought those in.
They're gorgeous.
Aren't they pretty? Yes. Well, I will tell her you said so because she'll be gone by the time the meeting gets out. But yeah, they're joyful and happy, and I forgot how much I love tulips, so it brightens up the desk, and I appreciate that she brought them in. So.
Well, at first, I didn't even notice it. So, I mean, in some respects, it looks very similar, I guess, based on my purview to the previous desk. But one thing I noticed when I walked in today, does the area stick out farther, like when you're making the left to come into this, like right in front of Jane's desk? Does that come out farther?
So there's a couple of things that happened, and I don't have a whiteboard marker in front of me.
And it maybe
yeah, so
for another
it
day,
actually, it used to be zigzagged inward from left to right, and there was no taller angle portion. It was just a smaller sit-down portion. So we pushed out the zigzag to the furthest point of what the original zigzag was, which gave us a huge L-shaped Tetris-like portion of workspace back. We were able to separate the shelves out then slightly that are in the back so we can move our carts a different way now, which was great. And then that angle portion is there now, which means that we've created this triangle of service basically where as people are walking in, we have a staff station now that's sort of making eye contact with the reference desk and is visibly pointing at the hold shelf as opposed to staring this way and then like, oh, someone needs help with the hold shelf. So what's really exciting is if you station someone at that stand-up angle portion, you now have, it's like if a patron walks into that octagon, it almost feels like a gladiator arena, you know, reference and circ are staring at this person, and then there's the hold shelf and the self-checkout there. So no one will get lost in the shuffle, which is exciting. So, and we've also eliminated the blind spots at the pillar, which I dislike, but is load-bearing, so I could not eliminate it. That pillar, where the workstations were currently, based on where the technology was installed and the grommets were drilled, meant that the pillar was right in the way, so circulation was serving people there, and they looked, they wouldn't see reference. Are they on the phone? Are they helping someone? You know, they just saw the pillar. We spent a lot of time like standing and going, okay, here's where the blind spot is. We're now going to put the fax machine and the cash register, stuff that doesn't require constant staff service presence in the blind spot because nobody's always standing there. So we were able to shift all those workstations in a way where there's no blind spots between reference and circulation too. So lots of improvements as a result of it, and I really commend Jane for her efforts in helping me on figuring that out. So glad to be done, like I said. Didn't like the project. Liked the outcome. Didn't like the project. Friends First Friday coffee. The next one is April 14th. That's because we are closed April 7th for Good Friday. Is that the...
That's right.
Yep. Okay. Friends are doing a lot of things. This is when we start to gear up for fundraising, and something I just want to emphasize is when we're talking about what the Friends are doing for fundraising, the staff walk hand in hand with the Friends in this. The Friends do quite a bit, and the staff are there to support them with that. So we're in meetings with them, we develop the marketing, so we very much work together to make sure that these fundraisers happen. And Maria Tess is chairing the 2023 Garden Walk again with Judy Steyer, and they're a dynamic duo, so we're really excited for another great year. When you see the city newsletter come out, you should see, you know, our normal advertisements for our department, but you should also see a blurb about the Garden Walk, because we're starting to advertise for that. We have some Culver's fundraising nights coming up, one in May and one in September. Let's see, we'll be there at Jammin' on Janesville. And I do have it on my list to go to National Night Out this year in August, so we will have a presence there. I wrote a grant to try to get money for CPR training for the staff, and it came up last minute. The due date was tomorrow by the time I realized it, so I really just had to throw it together. But it's a good grant. I like it, so we'll see if I get lucky there.
Do you write grants? Is that something that you...
I want to be more intentional about it, and I know we have a grant expert in the room. Usually I write about 3 grants a year, maybe get half of them. But we have a grant worksheet where we're starting to track grants, and one of the goals that I have for next year is a lot of what I've been doing the last 5 years has been managing capital projects, right? We've had the service desk, the carpeting, the children's area renovation, the YA area renovation. We're going to move into a period where we don't need to do capital projects with that because the building has been renewed, which is exciting, and I'm looking forward to turning that time to other things. And I think grant writing will be something that I'll hopefully
Yeah, because that's a definite skill to be able to
It is.
write those.
Yes, and Michelle what is your exact job title, Michelle?
The Research Operations Manager for the Department of Medicine at the Medical College of Wisconsin.
Oh, so
A lot of words,
you're
but
busy.
basically I review grants and contracts for research that come in and help faculty and doctors that do research. And I've been doing that 15 years, so not necessarily a grant writer, but I've seen enough. And
Okay, awesome.
happy to help or
That's
review
awesome.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, bet you're busy.
What we do.
Yeah, and so it'll be good. You know, I think when I started here, we had capital projects that we needed to get done over the last 5 years, and the Friends, we were sunsetting the old fundraising method and starting new fundraising methods, and so we've been building up that fundraising architecture with the Friends the last 5 years, but now we're also getting into a groove there where it's like, what we did last year worked, we can make some tweaks. So I feel like that's getting more into it's going to take a little less structural time to build. So I am excited to start moving into a more aggressive grant structure.
'Cause there's a lot of them out there.
I know.
That's-
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I'm excited to start on that. Amongst other sort of like more paperwork type things like analysis, data analysis, things like that, which I've done attention to, but not as much as I would like to. So. What else? The study room additions and the family restroom renovation, we're working on the bid documents right now. We are going to put those projects out for bid probably in May. We are hoping to bid those 2 projects at the same time that the city is bidding a project. I'm talking with Scott and DPW about that. The goal of that is that if we have 3 city projects, which are their own independent projects but going at the same time, there might be some benefit there to that.
Savings, yeah.
Yep, so he and I are coordinating on that.
Could it be possible that we only do one?
No, we have the funding for it. I mean,
I know that.
the only reason why we wouldn't do it is if it came back and there were no bids and prices blew so much where it was like, well, we can renovate half the bathroom, and then we would just have to defer the
The
project.
prices will never come down, so.
Yeah, and I built in inflation costs to both of the budgets.
Budget.
So the intention is to go forward with both of them. Hopefully we get bids on them, and hopefully it's based on what the, original quotes and proposals were, plus the inflation that I added in. Once we get the bids back, I will present the winning bid to you all at the June board meeting for approval. So that is coming up. Strategic plan, haven't forgotten about it. Strategic planning, I will be contacting you guys in the next week or so to set up a meeting. We are still doing some groundwork on that so that we have something to show to strategic planning. And my board education piece this month, I'm sorry it looks really short. I was just writing this when I got some news and I had to leave the building really quickly, and so I was 2 sentences in and thought this is going to have to be good enough this month. So we do have Canopy. It has streaming films and documentaries. It is different than our Hoopla, which has audiobooks and ebooks. Patrons get 4 free tokens each month to view them. It's found on our e-resources page. So if you remember, I've been demoing or showing things. So the same place where our Libby ebooks are and our Hoopla ebooks and e-audiobooks. Canopy is also listed there. And it has a steady following. I wouldn't call it something that's exploding exponentially like our Hoopla is. But it's pay per use, so it's not like we pay a lot per year, and then nobody, regardless of whether people use it or not. So it's been feasible to maintain financially, and it does have a lot of movies that we normally wouldn't have on our shelves, so it adds something to the collection for patrons.
I was going to say, I use it, and it's a lot more independent films and foreign films and classics rather than like the blockbusters and stuff you can get on Netflix or HBO. So that's why I use it, because, there's cool stuff on there. And it does get changed out like a library. They get new things added monthly or whatever.
So you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, too, that audiobooks are really taking off, and that would be the reason for Hoopla doing more than Canopy? Is it's what content that they carry? Is it, or not?
Yeah.
Enough people don't know about one or the other. That's
I mean, we market them similarly, but I do think that if you look at the Hoopla, or let me take statistics. I don't have a good breakdown of this. Maybe I could share that next month. If you look at Hoopla versus Canopy on the statistics, excuse me, for 2023, it's about a quarter of the way down. You will notice that we've had, in February, 68 Canopy uses or withdrawals versus 246 Hoopla. And I would say about 85% of the Hoopla uses of that 246 were audiobooks. So that is definitely the cause driving Hoopla's numbers, is people's interest in that.
Let me ask a really dumb question. Somebody takes out an audiobook, can they do it and listen to it in their car, or is this only a home thing? Because, I don't know enough about this. I apologize. But
no, I mean, that's why we have these board education moments to answer these questions.
So the audiobooks, it's not a physical takeout, though. It's an online takeout that you can put in your car?
We actually have two types of audiobooks. So we have what I would call a collection in transition right now. We have three types of audiobooks. We have the CD audiobooks, which are in our media area. And you can check them out, and they're on CD. There's usually like 7 to 12 of them in there. You can certainly put them in like I'm going to use a 90s term here, a boombox, right? You can do that. Or you can put it in
Some cars have
a car.
Some still do, like mine.
But to your point, Alderperson Schrader, a lot of newer cars now, they're not using CD players anymore. So when I say we have a collection in transition, we are starting to slow down the purchase of that because they're still getting checkouts. But the bridge collection is called the playaways. They're in the little orange boxes. They're MP3 players that patrons check out. They just stick earbuds into, and then they can go for walks with it. It just has the audiobook on there. It is only a bridge collection because the ultimate form is the e-audiobook. So the e-audiobooks on Hoopla and Libby. And that, you just get the app on your phone, and then it's there on your phone, right? So then you just sync your earbuds or plug in your earbuds to your phone.
So the only thing you're getting from Hoopla is the e-audio.
There's also ebooks and streaming film.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The streaming film
I think now I get it. Okay.
Not good.
No.
Not quality. I mean, the reason why they can afford it is because it's stuff nobody wants. The audiobooks and the ebooks are good, though. So.
Okay.
So do patrons pay for the app then, or did you pay per? How does that work?
The app is free, and that WPLC buying pool that we pay into, that is paying for our right for our patrons to be able to use it.
So they don't have to pay.
Correct. Yep. Now with Libby, the benefit is the collection is enormous, huge. The downside is there are limited numbers of licenses per user, and it is used, throughout our system and throughout the state. Now we put extra money into it to prioritize extra copies for our patrons. But what ends up happening is the hold list is still getting long, and it's getting longer the more people become comfortable with the collection. The more people go, CDs, I don't have a player in my car anymore. Playaways, what's this? I have a phone, right? So the playaways were meant for people who don't have CD capabilities anymore, but they didn't feel comfortable with the e-versions. So we still have that, but it's not a great medium. They tend to break easier, frankly, than the CD collections do. And again, it's not our ultimate form. So if you look at that collection, it's smallish. It just has sort of our best sellers. But the wait times are getting long, and it's a conversation we're having across the system with other directors. How do we combat these wait times? Because people they're putting a hold on a book, and it's taking them 6 months. And that's a really long time to wait. So we're trying to assess that.
You're talking ebooks.
Ebooks and e-audiobooks through Libby.
Right.
With Hoopla, the benefit of Hoopla, and the reason why you're seeing people use it, they only get 4 uses a month, similar to Canopy, because it's pay per use. We have to try to manage that budget. The benefit of Hoopla is it's instant access. So if every single one of you wanted to be in a book club, and there was an ebook or an e-audio book on Hoopla, you all could check it out at the same time and read it. That instant access is great. Hoopla's collection is smaller, though, but there's no wait time. So there's value to both of them. They do different things. They have different collections. Sometimes there's overlap. So if a patron goes on Libby and says, oh my goodness, this book has a 4-month hold list on it, it's going to take me forever, we'll check it in Hoopla, and they may have it in Hoopla. I would say 1 out of every 6, 7 times it'll be in Hoopla, and then they can just use it and get access to it right away. So to circle back around to your question, though, yep, you can absolutely, sync what you're playing on your phone with your car if your phone can Bluetooth connect with your vehicle, and then you can listen to the audiobook through your car, which is what a lot of people are doing. So
I was curious, how long do people get to check out these ebooks? I mean, especially the ones that are there's no physical.
So Hoopla is 21 days, I think, and Libby is, if it's not 21, it's 28, something like that.
Okay. Can you renew too, or no?
You can, with Libby, you can renew as long as there's not a hold on it. Mm-hmm. With Hoopla, you can check it out again. It's instant access, but it will cost you another token. And there are no late fees on any of these items because when the due date is there, you can return it early if you want, but when the due date's there, it just automatically
disappears.
Yeah. So it's, if you look at our, not just our Hoopla, but if you look at the Overdrive checkouts, which is the box above the Canopy and Hoopla, that's our ebooks, e-audio, and e-video from Libby or from Overdrive. And you'll see really healthy numbers. 2019 is, again, the baseline I'm presenting you guys before COVID. You can see in 2022 it was popular. And so we're 22 and 2023 right now are sort of mimicking itself. But yeah, and these, if you want to make some correlations to service, we get lots of questions about Overdrive and Hoopla. How do I use it? How do I get the app on my phone? How do I check out a book? How do I search? Those are all questions that library staff are willing to answer and help with. So if you look down to the bottom here under reference transactions and then technical or other information, whenever we get a question that is technical in nature or anything else, we log it in that section. And so amongst the 715 technical questions that staff answered in February are questions about, let me show you how to use the app, let me show you how to get it on your system, let me show you how to set up the checkout, things like that. So,
or the copy machine.
Yep, copy machine, how to print things. We get lots of technology questions. Any other questions about my report or the statistics page?
I have lots of questions because I don't understand technology, but that's for another day.
Or week.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments, questions, whatever for Brittany? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to unfinished business. And do you want to take the items as they're on here for timing purposes, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, we can start with
Okay.
that.
So then we're going to start with the discussion on the circulation and library card policies overview. I guess library card policy.
And just to give you all a little bit of background, if you weren't here last month, we ran the meeting, but we were going to lose a quorum, so we didn't really get to either of these. So a background, when it says unfinished business, last month neither of these were discussed. Now in January, the collection development policy was discussed. If you recall, this is the third read on this, but last month nothing was discussed. So if you were here in January, but not here in February, you did not miss anything related to that conversation. Okay, so the reason why I have the discussion of circulation and library card policies first is because these impact or inform on the collection development policy to some extent. So what I'm showing you, if you look at your packet and you're going to see a variety of other policies, our Safe Child policy, eligibility for library card policy, library card usage policy, privacy policy, and our mission statement. And the goal today, if you'll notice it says discussion, is not to update these policies. I want to focus on one policy at a time. I don't want us to be sparking off in a million directions. So these policies that we're looking at will come to review for the board in the coming months, but these are the policies as they stand right now. But they inform on the collection development policy and based on some questions that I've received. So, the questions that I received, the mayor had some questions. He had listened to a previous collection development, the January meeting, I think. And so he just wanted you all to hear those questions so we can make sure that these are considered in relation to the library's policies. So, the first question was, what safeguards are in place if other libraries in the system are supplying non-age appropriate materials to young children? And so if you recall from the collection development policy, because I'm sure we all have it memorized, there is a line in the collection development policy that states that items that come from other libraries get put on our hold shelf, and those, if the patron requested it, it's here. So that was a question. The second question was, there was a line in the collection development policy about that we subscribe to consortium collections, so like Libby that I just mentioned, right? Like that's a collection that's built by the state. And so the collection development policy states that we don't purchase individual books for that collection. So we don't control it. And so he just had a reference that we could stop funding, WPLC if we had a problem with it. Which is accurate, although I would argue that the statistics on the usage of it show the value of it, so, but that is correct. And then the third question was, why are there no age restrictions on what patrons can check out? So the question was, so like a 11-year-old or an 8-year-old could check out explicit material without parents' consent. That was the question. So the question basically, if you look at the first and the third question, was basically what safeguards are in place, what do we have? And so those questions came about from those two lines in the collection development policy that talk about we don't restrict on checkouts based on age. But I'm going to pull us out of the collection development policy for a second and pull us into these other policies. Because the answer to those questions, where we have those safeguards, are actually not in the collection development policy. They are in these other policies. So, the Safe Child Policy, which is on packet page 15, is what dictates age restrictions for being in the building and therefore selecting and checking out items. So, under the age of 8, they're not allowed to be in the building alone. So, automatically, the first safeguard is they have to be in the building with someone older and caring for them. The second safeguard that we have in place to address those questions is the eligibility for library card policy, which is on packet page 16. And that dictates parental consent for minors obtaining a library card. So, fun fact about library cards, it's actually a legal agreement that we're entering into when we sign it. Because we're saying, we are taking these items, and I promise to bring them back, and if I don't bring them back, I will have to pay for them. So, according to Wisconsin law, that's a legal agreement. Therefore, minors can't enter into a legal agreement. So, the second safeguard in place is that under the age of 18, they have to get consent from their parents to even get a library card. If a 17-year-old shows up and wants to renew their library card, we can't do it without their parent or guardian. And so immediately there is that parental presence and consent over my child can have a library card or they can't. And that safeguard and consent that occurs means that at any point that card can be canceled, right? So we walk with our children through every stage of their life as parents. If we get to a point where we think, you know what, my child is not ready to have this responsibility, similar to a driver's license, right? If the child's not ready, they do not have to consent to have them have a library card. And then maybe the parent just has a library card. And in that way, they can walk with their child and make sure they're selecting items that are appropriate for them. So that is the second safeguard that we have in place. The third safeguard is the library card usage policy, which is on packet page 17. And that dictates parental roles in monitoring a minor's card usage and borrowing privilege termination. And what that means is that when the child is getting a library card, and again up till age 17, the parent has to be there. At that time, the parent is given information on how to access their child's library account. They are given the ability to add their phone number and or their email so that they receive notifications on holds. They can check the account at any point to see what is being checked out. So if they decide, oh, actually my child is not quite ready for a library card, or I want to work more with them on their selection, they are able to make those decisions. So they're always having that ability to be informed on what their child has checked out and getting those notifications. And then also their ability ultimately to decide whether or not they want to remove borrowing privileges for their child. So the third safeguard that we have in place is that policy. She's here. She's just video. What's the word? Not video muted.
Oh, okay.
What do you call it when you hide your video? I don't know. The fourth safeguard that we have in place is the privacy policy, which is on packet page 19. Good for you if you read this entire policy. It was a long one.
It was a long.
Yeah, I know. So the privacy policy is very serious. It is part of Wisconsin state statute. It's Wisconsin law. So if you ever come up to the library and you ask, like, oh, what does my grandmother have checked out? I need to help her. And we say, I'm sorry, we can't help you with that. It's a state law thing. It's not just an us being finicky thing.
But the parents can know what their kids are.
Absolutely. Correct. So the exceptions are narrow. However, if you look at specifically packet page 19, the exceptions, you'll see that library records can be disclosed to custodial parents or guardians. So, again, similar to the previous policy, parents can always be, informed on what their child has checked out to make sure that they are in line with what they want for them.
Can you give an example of court order?
Sure. So if a police officer comes in and has a court order, like maybe it was they're doing an investigation due to whatever, I don't know what it could possibly be, but if they present us with a document from a judge saying reveal these library records, then we would hand them over. We legally cannot, if a police officer walks in and says, can you help me look up this patron's record, if they don't have the court order, we're legally not allowed to hand it over. But with a court order, we certainly can and will.
And do you guys stand by the 16 years and younger? So
yeah, we have to. Okay. Yeah.
And then my other quick question, because these were done 5 years ago, have we resubmitted to the city attorneys to look over them?
So
we just had to go through that.
Yeah, so these policies are coming up next. And like I said, because these connect back to those questions, which connect back to the collection development policy, I'm bringing us through a winding journey through these, but ultimately we are going to be bringing these policies back before the city attorney and then to you guys again. So, yeah, good question. And then lastly, I included our mission statement, which we looked at recently, and that is just, our purpose here. So, anyway, so to summarize, there are safeguards in place to make sure that parents are monitoring, either allowing their child to check out things or not allowing them to check out things, the ability to terminate access at any point, being present in the building by a certain age. So we do have those safeguards in place designed to assist parents with that. So.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Isn't the checkout information, though, eliminated after a certain time frame? I thought I read that in here.
The reading history
The reading.
for patrons is not retained after the items are checked back in. So, in terms of a parent monitoring their child's account, they should be monitoring it, as they want to. But yes, once the items are checked back in, no longer. Now, what the parents could do is go into their settings and select that they want to activate the reading history, and then it would retain everything. So they have that ability to do that. The reason why that is an opt-in and not an opt-out is that once the record is retained, it is part of records that we would divulge with a court order, and so that's up to everyone's individual choice whether or not they want that information tracked or not. But parents could absolutely go into their child's card and select reading history, and then they would be able to see that record. So that's a good question.
Is that explained to parents? Because I don't remember anybody telling me that when I got my kids' cards.
It's a best kept secret, not intentional. I think it's something that as we're reviewing our card creation process that I think we want to be more clear about. Usually when people come in and they have library cards created, you have about a 6-minute window to talk to them because they're usually ready to go. And so we try to figure out, what are our main talking points, and then we have a brochure that we just updated that we hand out. And so I think it's on the brochure, but I do think we're starting to see that question more, people wanting their reading history. So I do think we need to add it to the spiel. So.
On the checkout website, when you look at your records, it's on there, and it tells you exactly what the change would mean and everything. I've looked at that.
Yeah, when you go in and select reading history, a little pop-up occurs saying, if you do this, the records will be retained. So do you want them to be tracked in that way? So
That's only if you click on it.
Correct.
Yeah, you have to change.
Well, I'm just bringing it up. I know I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, but reading all the policies together, it struck me that there's kind of a loophole. My 8-year-old could come here on his own, check out something inappropriate, unless I'm actively logging in like that same day to check what he got, he could have it without my knowledge. You know what I mean? And then even return it without me even knowing that he had it or not catching it until later. And if I haven't saved the history log, then I'm not saying he would, but that
If in the period of time that you let him go to the library on his own and had the item, and then you let him go back to the library, yeah, I mean, you might miss it. But that's where it's on the parent, and this is the parent's right and obligation, because we are not, one of the lenses that I want to make sure that we're looking through this with is that we're a public library. We're not a school library. And so we don't operate in loco parentis like school staff do. And so what we do, or what we do, is called home rule, and that means, what is your home rule? That's it. So, you as a parent may decide, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to monitor, this is what I think is right for my child, and then you may think, nope, I have a completely different idea of that. And so we leave that up to the parent to decide, because we don't want to tell the parents what's right for their child and what isn't.
Even though some parents need to be told that.
And they're not supposed to come here when they're 8, not till they're 9.
it said 8.
It says 8.
Oh, it said not, I thought it said no 8-year-olds on their own.
8-year-olds and older.
Oh, about 8-year-olds.
I know.
That's why
I have an 8-year-old too.
Maybe we should talk about that next time.
That
when we
seems
go
a
over
little
that
young.
policy.
And we can. And I don't want to dive down that path today, but I promise you that these policies are the next ones to come up.
Right.
And we can absolutely talk about that. One of the things that I was going to do before we have that conversation is look at other libraries and see, not that we can't make our own decision, but like what, I looked at that too, and I'm like, 8, what is
Yeah,
that?
because why did I pay for daycare? I could have just dropped them off here.
Right?
For real.
So we will talk about that next month. Or
So-
maybe not next month, but we will talk about that.
Another thing that I think may come up, though, is, so if my child is here as an 8-year-old on their own, if they go straight to the children's section and stay there, you kind of feel like they're in a safe zone. Like if they're wandering like everywhere else in the library. But even in the children's section, if things are, I don't know, like some books are like in the stack area, and you may, like, those are for more older children. And that's to be expected, that there will be lots of different topics in there.
Yeah.
But, like, some of the ones that are sometimes on display, like, on top of the picture book area, sometimes those you kind of question that those are put there.
Yeah, and we try to have a variety of items that
Right.
we're showcasing, because it is a community of different interests, right?
Right.
And so if we only ever showed the books with red trucks on them, that would not be representative of, the different items in our collection. And so, there are items in here that is not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's people, we have barbecue cookbooks, and then we have vegetarian cookbooks. And there are people who really don't like peas, and there are people who really think it's inappropriate to eat, animals. And so we, that's a I'll call it a lower level example, but we as a public library, we try to have a variety of items, we showcase a variety of things, and
Well, there's a little difference between food choices and inappropriate for certain age levels.
but I think the point we have to consider is, it's inappropriate for who, right? And I think at this table we could probably all come up with a different definition of that, and so we just have to be mindful of that. Maybe there'd be some things we agree on, but there might be some things we disagree on, and so as a public library, we are going to offer a variety of materials for the community, and then the most important thing, because the only person that knows what is appropriate or inappropriate for each individual child is the parent and guardian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that the parent and the guardian has the full rights and the abilities to assist their child with that. And
and there's a difference between having them available and showcasing them too. Like,
Sure, and the items on display are not recommendations necessarily, right? They are just, these are new items that have come in, and if we are only showing certain items, then we as an individual are almost taking we're not showcasing the variety of items that we have. So we try to be mindful of what we put on display, but we don't want to necessarily
we're in the era of
drag.
drag queens in libraries reading to little kids too. So I'm just saying there are certain things that aren't going to be appropriate, in my opinion, to be on display.
Yeah,
In a kids area or near a kids area.
And we do have them, they're just not on display.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, she was just getting into maybe there's something that's real close to where the kids are hanging out that really wouldn't be appropriate, and that's a concern. I don't have real little ones anymore, but like I said, I wish I knew I could have dropped them off here.
It would have saved me thousands. And like I said, we can talk about that age 8. I will review other policies. I'll show it before the city attorney. That policy will be coming back.
I'm just curious on Michelle's hypothetical. Who would get the overdue notice on the 8-year-old's book? Would it go to the 8-year-old or to the parent?
To the parent.
So that would be one way. It would be
If it's
maybe
overdue.
too little,
If it was
too late.
overdue, right.
Yeah, and if it was overdue, but at least then that would be a way you'd be aware, but it would be quite late after that.
Just
so
throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's certainly possible
Great question.
if the reading history isn't
Yeah.
selected. But, that's again where the parent is, where's my child? What are they doing? Did I drop them off at the library? Are they at a friend's house? What are, that is, the parent is monitoring, similar to when we send them off in a car. We don't know what they're doing for that period of time, but it's the parent's role to sort of say, ultimately, where were you? What are you doing? Do you have anything checked out on your card? Do I need to check daily on my kid's library card? And I would say as a parent, if I have to check daily, maybe, because I'm concerned about that, maybe they're not ready for a library card, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're not ready. So
you do say something to what Deb was talking about, that we are not, I don't remember where it was, in which policy, there's so many, but that librarians are not responsible for watching young children. Okay, so, bye-bye.
Good
Bye.
to see you.
So, to say, to dump our kids off or whatever, they're not going to be watched by our staff. That's not part of their job. So I guess drop them off at your own risk.
there's actually, if you look in the building, there's a line in yellow. Maybe it's not the biggest sign, but it says, no smoking. Parents, stay with your children. And I mean, if they're aged, technically they don't need a
Isn't
parent.
there something at the front door also?
I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but we will go through those policies, but I just wanted to sort of articulate what those safeguards are.
Where did the questions come from that you're reading?
The mayor.
That was from the mayor.
Yeah, because
That's right.
there were 2 lines in the collection development policy that just say we don't
That's kind of what I thought.
restrict via age. So what are the safeguards? And the safeguards are those policies I listed. So circulation policies, not collection development. So I wanted to redirect us to that.
Anyone else have any comments on this particular part of policy discussion? Because the next item on the agenda, as you can all read here, is discussion and action on the collection development policy itself, which is on its 3rd read. So I think the first question I would ask is, do you want a motion on the floor, or what do you want to do here?
Well, let me give one piece of background. The biggest change that occurred from the first time we read this policy was I added, based on the board's conversation, the request for reconsideration form to the policy itself. So the request, at least what I was getting from the room, was adding it to be part of the policy, which would then be posted on the website as an option. So I did that, so it's there. And other than that, I don't recall there being other changes requested of me at that time. So we could put a motion on the floor if you want, and then have further discussion. Yep.
Within there. Okay. So I'm looking either for a motion to approve or a motion to, I guess what would you call it? Because we don't want to like cancel this. So it would be. I think we'll just look for a motion to approve. Okay, and then we'll go from there. So looking for a motion to approve the collection development policy.
I move we approve the collection development policy.
All right, Phyllis, thank you. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Okay, any discussion? Because, we could vote this down ultimately, too, based on the discussion. So, but right now, the motion is on here to approve. I have one thing, just to get the conversation going here. On page 26, the second paragraph from the bottom, how you read things and you've never seen it before. We participate in a nationwide interlibrary loan system.
Yep, so the items that come from other libraries are technically like an inter-system scenario, right? We share amongst our system. That's the fastest way for patrons to get things because we have our van service that comes Monday through Friday. However, if there's not the item either at our library or within the system of our 24 member libraries, then we can put out a broader request to try to get it from elsewhere. It's again, there's a lot that I'm going to say the word best kept secret again, but not intentional. But usually what happens is if patrons can't find something, they come and talk to us. Mm-hmm. Of course, they may just give up, in which case we missed that opportunity. So I'm always thinking of ways to better market that service. But people definitely do use it. We submit the request via our broader system. We start by looking at the state because, again, it's faster if it's found in a library in our state. But for really rare items, we will look across the country as well. It just takes longer. So, it's good. And it's just this mutual sharing agreement. It doesn't cost us anything. We just agree, hey, library in South Dakota, we'll share something with you if someday maybe you'll share something with us.
And have we used that? Have we called on anybody?
We have, yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Never knew that.
I wish, I don't have the annual report with me but off the top of my head, I feel like we sent out over 300 items last year, and we received at least 400 or 500 items from across the state and or country.
Wow.
So
where was I then?
Me, yeah. I came in a couple of weeks ago for the book Verity.
Oh,
and, oh my gosh, all 100 copies in the county are gone.
It's very popular.
Yeah.
You have good taste.
Guess what? I found it at Target. I found it at Target.
You know what the funny thing is, Nancy? I use that joke all the time when I'm trying to soften the blow when I tell them oh, it's going to be a long hold list. You're the first person to laugh at me about that.
Oh.
They never find it funny.
They don't find it funny.
Thank you for laughing at this joke that I knew had power to it. Someone would have to say it was funny. Anyway.
Okay.
Neither here nor there. Any other questions?
I've read it. I'm glad that was a joke.
So I continue that? I just bought it today.
It is very popular for a reason.
It is.
Okay. Barb has a question.
Okay, the responsibility for the selection of materials. Do you guys have a criteria for what you select? Because it says with the approval of the board. Have we ever discussed that? And how do you decide what things to put into the library?
Yeah, good question. The criteria and guidelines for selection are on page 27. So, it's all there, but the selection criteria is at the bottom half of the page. One of the greatest things, if I could stand on my soapbox for a minute about librarians and what we do. Some people think that like, oh, well, anyone can read an Amazon review and buy a book. But I promise you, we go and get our master's degree, and they train us very heavily on selection and assessment, reading reviews, assessing dates. So, for example, we would never, even if a book was really well reviewed, but it's a medical book from 2016, we're not going to buy that now because it's going to have outdated information. So if you look at the selection criteria, you'll see professional critics, consideration of the work as a whole, cost and availability, right? If there's a book that we think is really popular, but it's going to cost $700 to get it, we will not buy that book. Relevance to community needs, so we may buy 3 copies of a certain book if it's a really popular one and we know we need to get it to people. Representation of different genres, so you know that people like science fiction, but they also like mystery. So yeah, these guidelines for selection and the criteria are what purchasing staff use every time they are considering an item. So.
I have a question. When the books do come in, and other materials like movies and things, are all of them reviewed by you or by someone else in the library before they get put on a shelf?
Yeah, so when staff bring them in, I wouldn't say that they read every page because that would be, like if you think about somebody buying for the adult collection,
right?
You know, they're getting these books that are 300 to 800 pages or whatnot. They do take the opportunity, though, they have to catalog it, right? And cataloging it is the time when they look at the item, they flip through it, and they decide where is this supposed to go, right? In the library, like location-wise, and then what are the subject headings needed for it. So they absolutely review each item after it comes in, and that allows them to do all that. So,
okay.
Good question.
And our collection is how big?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the purchasing, the selection, the purchasing, the labeling, and the way that the item gets to the shelf, it takes time. It really does. It is not a quick thing. It's a reason why we don't have volunteers do it, because the life cycle of a book is long and winding to get to the shelf.
Do you ever return a book? Let's say, you buy something from Baker and Taylor and it comes and it's not kind of what you expected it to be. Have you ever done anything like that?
We have returned some books before, yeah. I think the most notable example is we got a book that came in and it just got missed that it was one of those books that had like a ton of flaps on it, and children's books that have flaps, they tend to get eaten up or torn up, or it was some type of book that had, I don't know, like pullouts and glitter, I don't know, whatever it was, it would have never survived more than, 2 weeks on the shelf, or two toddlers basically. So on occasion we've returned things if it didn't show up quite the way we expected, but usually staff are, they read the professional reviews to figure out like, what am I getting myself into?
Because before they order it, they literally don't have the book in their hand. That's why I was wondering if you've had any surprises, and obviously you've had a couple.
A couple, but nothing major, because when we're reading these professional reviews, they are written by typically other librarians or professionals or writers or professional reviewers for professional library journals, right? So there are actual journals we subscribe to, and its only job is to review books that come out, tell you what it's about, what it's doing, sometimes recommended age groups or reading levels. And so the librarians, that's where they go to look and read and figure out their selection most of the time.
So do the publishers send the books like free of charge to these people?
Often,
and all that
yes.
kind of thing?
Yes,
So,
and then they make the reviews, yeah. Abby was actually a reviewer for certain journals. Yeah, she would review books. Tony, have you ever done that? Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
So they rotate the reviewers then?
Yeah, I think because you want a variety of reviewers so that they're giving, sort of balanced viewpoints or different viewpoints. So.
Okay, we're almost 6:15 already, so, okay. So, anybody else have anything on this one? Are we all prepared to vote on approval? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the collection development policy, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay.
And if you look at the top of page 30, it says, the library board's decision is final.
Just like a parent.
Let's hope it never gets there.
That's what I said.
Let's hope it never gets there.
Oh, please.
Okay, now we're looking at new business. Is there anything that, we have nothing, obviously. Is there anything that you folks have?
Well, we can't add anything, actually, because it's not on the agenda.
Well, technically, wouldn't we do that under communications and miscellaneous business, but then we couldn't talk about it anyway?
Well, yeah,
Is there
the
anything
communication and miscellaneous business it's really specific to small updates like, I'm going to be on vacation next week. I'm not. I'm going to be next week. But like those types of things. I can't talk about anything of substance because it's not on the agenda.
Could you say something like, I'd like A, B, C on the agenda next month?
You could, yeah. So like if Carrie
So it
said
can be I don't want to say vacation isn't of substance, but it could be of substance. I'm having trouble talking tonight. Matter.
Yeah, so like if
Okay.
Carrie said like, I would really love to talk about the Safe Child policy next month, she could say that, but then we couldn't.
Oh, I understand we
about
can't take
Yeah.
action, but that's
Yeah,
why
or
I was
even really
thinking
discuss
under-
it. Yeah, it's more like brief little FYIs.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's no
okay.
new business for
Yeah,
us.
all right. Nothing like that. So any communications and miscellaneous business is authorized by law. Now that we know the difference. Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
All right, Nancy. All right, thanks, Phyllis.
Did anybody look at the little slot for pickup? Boy, one or two.
Oh, yeah.
That amazes me when we were in
I know.
COVID. And
Yeah.
I have a more, not more, but
Are
another.
we adjourned?
Oh, I'm sorry. What did we move to adjourn?
Yes.
Yep.
We had a.
Okay, first and a second. And we
Nancy
all in
and-
favor? Motion.
All in favor, please.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 6:14.
6:14. All right. Very good, everyone. Barb, pleasure. Bye.
Bye, Barb.